hardly, barely, staggering, truly staggering today. So I got a giant lake. I got a lake of coffee. Ew, with the hair in it. Oh, God, it's not even my hair. Oh, well, it's coffee. Ocean. I have crossed oceans of coffee for you. I'm looking the wrong way now. I've switched it around because this way I think my chat will be on this side. Hey, Hope. How you doing, Alexander? And Megan, Soma. Afternoon there for you. Well, here's the deal. As long as I get my darn exercise done by 11 o'clock, I'm feeling pretty darn crazy good. Tobiah Craft. How are you, Tobiah Craft? And Amanda Bricker. And Janine. And Carissa. And Francine. Bonjour, Francine au français. Good morning, Sherry. Maker Viking. How are you, Maker Viking? Oh my God. Yay. Thought you would skip today. Candace, no. I can't skip today because of the guilt. And the donuts and the pizza. I'm having pizza. Tonight, I promised Baz we could have pizza because he's done like 3 applications for 3 different, what do they call them, like alternate public school things. Because we feel quite strongly that we'd like him in the public school system because I feel like, while there are huge benefits, obviously, of paying vast amounts of money and sending him to private school, I just worry that there's a certain bubble that comes into effect with it that sort of, I guess, makes Jane and I a little nervous. So what we thought was we would just get him to, and we talked to him about it, that we just get him to apply for a bunch of these schools that he wanted to go to. I was, of course, thinking math, sciences, maker schools and STEM programs, and he's applying for arts programs. But, I love him. He's a talented little jerk, little bratlet, and so I'm sort of wishing him well. And he's written some neat stuff. He wrote a really creepy story about cults and stuff. And then at the end of it, this is what I love him for. At the end of it, he wrote, "This is not a cry for help. Please do not call child services. I love my parents. My house is wonderful, and I'm not in a cult," which I thought was kind of cute. And we'll probably cause them to call child services and stuff. Oh my God, yes. Speaking of screw ups, get this. So I got a new phone, as I think I mentioned. My nice new iPhone. I resentfully bought an iPhone because my entire family's on iPhone. What did I learn today? I'm learning humility. Humility and the limits of my own, like the tiny limits of my physical being. I haven't worked out the learn stuff. I've been doing a lot of podcast stuff recently, like a lot of learning through podcasts. There is an amazing series called How I Built It, it's old, it's been around for a while, it's NPR, but it's just come to my attention because of another YouTuber who I love called, I think it's like Alpha Gaming, I believe. He does all these tips. I like him because he's great for the kids to sort of teach them the ins and outs of streaming and the business aspects of it. Because one of the things that I think people forget when their kids announce that they're going to be famous YouTubers or streamers when they grow up is that there's opportunities there for the kids to learn about building a business and networking and marketing and maths and accounting, and there's just so many possible inspirational points there that the kids could end up delving into because they're interested in doing YouTube or streaming as a profession. Which basically, if you ask any kid under the age of like 14 now who's allowed to use their cell phone, that's basically what they want to do. They want to be a professional YouTuber or streamer or online personality of some sort. And my son, of course, and myself for that matter, look at me, I'm here now, are no different. I've always said, like, I feel like I am like a week ahead. I feel like I've got a tiny, useless first adopter advantage on people in that because of my scattered ADHD approach to sort of lifelong learning, I tend to be a little tiny bit ahead of the curve on some things. Not enough to do anything or profit from it in any way, but just enough to sort of enjoy it build. And so it's kind of neat that, my own interest in this stuff, obviously sparked by a lot of the kids, has also sort of renewed my interest in business because I've made a decision, which was a tough one for me because I originally saw the Tech Bandits as a charity. I wanted it to be a charitable organization that could accept donations and help kids out. And then, my wife and I talked about it, and a couple of my friends and I talked about it. And the reality was, then it would become something that I wasn't doing, basically, because there would be a board of directors. There's a whole structure that's required to do that. And I spoke to Bonnie Schmidt a while ago about this, and I like any good advice, you ignore it for like a year, and then suddenly go, wait a second, she was right. And she said, never underestimate the charitable and the change possibilities of a for-profit, because she was saying, she runs a charitable organization. She knows how big the infrastructure needs to be and how much accounting and sort of oversight there is on this kind of stuff. And it's I'm sure for her, I mean, she's got this down. I mean, she's got Let's Talk Science, and she runs it beautifully. But she was saying, look, you have a company that's for profit, and then you just put the profits back into what you're doing, and that's, yes, you don't get the benefits of charitable stuff and everything, but you have a small, nimble company that can basically squirrel whenever I decide to change its direction, and there's no repercussions to that, and there's no problems with that, and also probably the tax is a little easier. So that's the plan. It's weird because now I got to get my head around how do I turn this into a business that also accepts donations and Patreon and I love the idea of Twitch because Twitch, and I suppose this as well to some extent. I love the idea that there, that is in a way that's a service. Like you join my streams, you subscribe, and you get absolutely no advantage right now except that I love you for it. But there's probably a better way to handle that. But anyways, the point being is I've just been seeing you going through all these. This is a very, very long-winded answer to someone saying, "What did you learn in your Burn and Learn today?" And what I've started doing now with my Burn and Learns is I turn off the music, that god awful poppy crap that they play, that inspirational garbage that gets fed into my ear holes while I'm trying to exercise. I've turned that off, and as a result, it's one of those few times in my days now where there's nothing else. Like I do find myself drifting into thought about stuff and considering things, which is kind of fun. Not that you can do a lot of that in a 7-minute workout, but it's just a nice. It's been quite nice. And this, I actually look forward to this every day now, which is shameful in my desperate need for attention. And also, it's amazing how much I look forward to that final stretch. They have I do like a 7-minute warm up, which kills me every time. I think I'm gonna lose my right leg. It hurts so much. But I'm doing 2 weeks. I don't care if I have to freaking do it on one leg. I'm doing 2 weeks to just lock in this habit. And then I do like a 7-minute workout, which is just a random one. All of these at beginner level. All of them do your push-ups on your knees. It's old man stuff. It's an old man. People say, what's that guy from Stargate doing now? He's in his basement trying to do exercises. So I then do like a 7-minute cool down, and that's been great. All right, let me get to the chat here. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, all fantastic. I gotta say, I one of the first things I'll use the other hand, David. So otherwise you get a big hairy fist in the face. I did one of my first gigs was out in Saskatchewan. And do I mean that? No. Was it Saskatchewan? God, it was so long ago now. Certainly out that way, and it's just a freaking amazing place, as long as it's not the winter. And if it's the winter, you just have to dress for it. All right, what do we got? New York City. All right, Limbo Gene. New York City, what a fantastic place. Jim the Evo. God, the saintly dungeon master and virus expert, James Gurney. Go and follow Jim the Evo. Go right now. Look him up in this chat. Go look at his cute little face from 1,000 years ago when he was in university doing his videos on viruses and such. And this crazy, and what at first basically connected me to him was Q Dragon and his Cooking with Q. So go check out Cooking with Q as well. Amazing Q Dragon. Go check it out. But Q Dragon sort of introduced me to James Gurney, and I was just so taken with his excitement about this stuff. He was this crazy guy who actually loved viruses, truly loved viruses, in a very unnatural way. And I loved it. And of course, this was long before all this pandemic stuff now. So now he gets to sort of sit back and gloat about his about how he told us so all along. And yeah, he's amazing. And also his dungeon mastering skills are basically second to none. And yes, at some point we are going to do a grown up one where it's not quite, hopefully not quite as complex as it is with my Tech Bandits from the Netherlands. Oh man, gotta get out there. Brisbane. Oh, it's like home away from home, beanbag. Yeah, Australia. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Just, God, what a place. What an amazing place. Emperador, he's back again, or they're back again. Hi, David. Good morning. Thank you for answering my questions. Here's another question. Oh, did I answer the first one? What you prefer, Android or iOS, and why? I prefer Android, but I use iOS. How's that? I switched to a Samsung Edge for a while and freaking loved it. Because you know why? Because I'm a nerd, and nerds just love to play with things, and the Android is so incredibly flexible in what it can do, and it's just, and you can write programs for it and run them on it, and it just, oh, I had so much fun with the Android. Here's the problem. Because of this sort of walled garden approach of Apple, I can't communicate properly with my family when I'm on an Android device. I am relegated to the green zone, and I can't do group chats, and it just became too frustrating. And I knew I wasn't going to convince my brilliant wife and son into changing their phones. So I finally went, okay, fine. I'll give you this Apple. I'll give you this. I did the iPhone. I'm sticking with the iPhone now for the time being, and I may even. I'm considering even getting another laptop from them. But the desktop is going to be anything that's doing any of the fun streaming stuff is going to be PC related. So that's where I'm at. Don't tell Cal, my moderator, that I might buy a MacBook, but. The thing is, I've had MacBooks for years. The one that I've got was actually a gift from Brian, 3D Brian, which I still very much appreciate. He had an old one. It was still, I think, slightly newer than the one that had just died on me. And he said, well, I'm not using it. So, and he was very, very kind, sent it to me. And I've been using it ever since. It's just been, it's just this bulletproof Mac, which frankly works better than the freaking crazy expensive trash Mac that I bought a while back because I was enamored with the glorious new form factor and the brilliance of, but it's been a piece of junk, frankly. I've sent 2 of them back. Apple support sucks, sucks ASCII is what I would say. I mean, it just, oh God, it's awful. And they just, this elitist, don't even start me. Anyways, point being is I'm going to build my own PC. That's on the books. ThinkNoodle built her DStat sponsored PC. So this is ThinkNoodles is one of our Tech Bandits young lady who is just a force to be reckoned with, and we love her. And I mean, I want to strangle her half the time, but I love her. And so I've been delivering there's been a few little extra bits that she's needed. So I've on my dog walks I've wandered around, and last night I dropped off a 3-pin fan adapter to her house. Scared the crap out of her parents because this lulking thing comes staggering up the stairs with his hood on and his big headphones and mask and fogged up glasses and this like vicious attack huzzah with him. And I put this thing through the mail slot and then stood at the bottom of the stairs and said, waved at them, and it obviously totally creeped them out. Anyways, her father came out and said that she had she'd not allowed him to do anything, so it was fine. I said, look, I'm really sorry. I hope I haven't sort of like, because we built it, we tested it. So I used, one of my kids helped me pick, Lord Chunky, who is our PC guru, helped me, basically picked the components that we should get for this PC. Alan Malventano was also very helpful to us. And of course, DStat literally sent us $1,500 to buy her a computer because she was nervous about asking her parents about it because she didn't want to bug them about money. And I just thought that was really cute. And it's one of the things that I absolutely love about Tech Bandits. And it's kind of, it's not the reason I do it, because when I started, this wasn't, I got to be that person. Like I was working, I was bringing stuff in. The kids would say, I want to do this. And I go, okay. And I go off and I buy stuff and I bring it in. And there's only so much you can do of that before your wife points out that you're going to go into bankruptcy by being nice to people. So anyway, so that's where Tech Bandits is right now. And I absolutely love it. Where are we at? Were there other questions? I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place, aren't I? Get your big hairy hand out of the way. Okay. Atlantis should be called the Rodney and Shepard Show. I just think Stargate McKay is fine, Matthew. That's fine. I'd go with that. That's what I call it, anyways. I could help you building at least via Discord or somehow. I'm actually an IT specialist. Oh, Alexander, thank you very much. We've got there's a. I mean, from a PC building standpoint, I think we're pretty good. The biggest issue we have, honestly, is parts. I mean, I've been waiting. I've been holding off because I don't want to buy some stupid old GPU for a ridiculous price right now, and then when the new ones, I mean, there's so much gouging going on in the GPU market right now. I mean, even the old 2080 series. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to find a place for this to sit, and it is just not doing it. It's just people gouging even on the old 2070 Supers and stuff. They're selling 2070 Super GPUs. That is the last generation of NVIDIA GPUs. And they're selling them for more than these beautiful, 3080s and 3070s and 3060s and stuff. So I just want to hold off. And Lord Chunky, my 13-year-old PC expert, he's an example of, to me, he's a great example of what can happen with Tech Bandits. There's a kid who came in to see Baz and I build this PC together, took an interest, saved up for years. I mean, it's really not fair. If anyone should have had a PC bought for him, it should have been Lord Chunky. But Lord Chunky literally saved up for like 2 years to buy research and buy, and then build his PC. And he is so amazing at, like, anytime there's somebody who needs a PC or something, I just go like, oh, Lord Chunky, would you put together a system for whoever? Off he goes. He researches it, goes on Parts Picker, finds the cheapest one. He's really good at not just, he doesn't believe in just throwing money at stuff. He's very, very good at going like, okay, look, what are you using it for? Okay, if you're only doing this, then spend the money on a nice monitor instead of a crazy powerful CPU when your GPU is doing all the work for it, that kind of stuff. And he's not a product of, he's a product of his amazing parents too, to be honest. His parents are both just freaking wonderful, lovely geniuses as well. But he's just, for me, he's just an inspiration, because I've just seen him go from, when we first started, it was him and Baz. They each sat they each stood on one of the footrests of this elliptical and hurled each other around. They were that big and that uninterested at the time. And he's just started to sort of take an interest in it. And even Baz, Baz, who's not a big tech nerd really. He knows his stuff now. He's come around to it a bit. We did a reinstall of Windows the other day, and he's slowly been reinstalling stuff to figure out what was the issue. And it's such a, people say, what do you want to do with your life? That would be it. I got to say, go off and have some fun acting jobs that don't take me too far or for too long away from my Tech Bandits, and I'm a happy man. And that's really where I'm at right now. It's amazing. I've got two shows on the go right now, with sort of a day here and a day there once we start back up again. And it just allows me to keep going with the Tech Bandits and hopefully exercise. Actually, hopefully, absolutely exercise, because I'll be exercising every day, because I'm going to be the fittest man alive. Because at some point, Jewel and I are going to be on stage together, and I don't want to be Jabba the Hutt to her Princess Leia. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so a lot of people ask about Destiny. I haven't really played Destiny. To be honest, I don't do a lot of video games anymore. I used to. Tonight, Baz hasn't. I gotta say, I'm kind of excited about this, because he's actually invited me to play with him and his friend tonight, I think on a stream. I don't know whether it's going to be streamed on my channel or your channel, or on his channel or whatever. But yeah, so I'm Ironham and Bag of Chips and I think we might be playing some Stardew Valley. So, which seems like a game I could probably figure out. We'll see. It's farming. I like farming and stuff. So I like those farming games. So I may be doing that. World Builder and Dog's playing Destiny. We need to set up like a. You should go to the I Am Ironham. The Ironham Discord server. I'll have to put these links in, because basically I was doing a Tech Bandits Discord server, and because I just wanted to I didn't want all of my Tech Bandits nonsense getting in the way of Baz's stuff. But the reality is the Ironham server is where everyone is. So I think we're just gonna use that, and then just for the voice chat I'll use the Discord one. But we'll have to set up some gaming things so that people can start gaming together, because this is one of the things I love about this stuff is that you start seeing people connecting on the chats themselves, and that's just kind of a neat thing. How you doing, Maker Viking? What are you up to now? What are you making? What's the Maker Viking up to? Um, and Invisible Dimensions. Hello, Invisible Dimensions. Stardew Valleys is fantastic. Just logged off myself, but I have literally hundreds of hours played on it. It's very calming. Well, that's what I need, Bridget, is some calming Stardew Valley. So I'm hoping to, I might try to do some streaming of that. Maybe Baz will stream and I'll stream. Maybe we'll both stream, but then you can bounce back and forth. And because his stuff is probably going to be much more exciting. Oh my God, I have a lake of coffee that I'd totally forgotten about. Mm-hmm. Please feel free to talk amongst yourselves. Hi, David. Hope you're well today. Just joined the chat. Hello, Sherry Lyons. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. It's been an odd week, I've got to say. And this lockdown thing is very frustrating. It's very frustrating that we're not getting. There's no vaccines in the works here that I can tell. I'm a little concerned about my dad and my mom. My stepmom, and my dad are both of the right age, and I imagine probably there are underlying issues that would be difficult. So I really hope they get some vaccines sorted out here. My mother in England, in London, has already been vaccinated, so that's kind of cool. I hate how everything closes so early. I know, I get nothing done too. I've got like a bunch of stuff I've got to run around and do, and invariably by 5 o'clock, I'm like, okay, ready to go, and then of course everything's shut at 5. So McKay on caffeine, God help us. Vincent, I live on that on caffeine. That's all I do. Hey, if you tried to start a Valley, you might try playing Animal. I don't like Animal Crossing. Eugene, I know everyone says Animal Crossing. I never got into Animal Crossing because the thing I love about Stardew Valley is there's like sort of an artistic thing about it. The Nintendo stuff has a generic kind of thing to it that kind of bothers me. I don't really. I mean, Breath of the Wild and stuff is beautiful, but I find those little bobbly characters and stuff just a bit. I don't know. It seems too kiddie for me. I much prefer the Stardew Valley stuff. I got to say, father-in-law just received his first vaccine dose. It's just one person, but seeing the news made me so happy for progress. Fantastic, Andrew. Where are you that happened? This beard suits you. His beard. This is just neglect. There's no beard there. It's just neglect. I want some more dog's breakfast type stuff from you. Then witness my life, because my life is a series of ridiculous disasters, usually incurred by me. I got the new phone. I try to install the SIM. SIM doesn't work. So I go onto the site and they say, "Oh, you've got to register that your new SIM." So I put in the new SIM. That doesn't work. That's weird. I wonder why that doesn't work. Then I look and I go, "Oh, I've just changed the SIM on my wife's card, so on my phone." So I go, "Oh, that's stupid." Okay, so I go and I change it back. So fine, change that back. Then I go and do mine. Mine's not working. So I go, "Okay, fine. I'll change it back to the old one." Change it back to the old one. Doesn't work. So I use my son's phone to call TELUS, and after many, many hours of tech support, they're now going to send us 2 new SIM cards, because it turns out not only did I obliterate my own SIM card, not only did I wipe and destroy my own SIM card, I also wiped and destroyed Jane's. So we are without phones right now. We have phones with like Wi-Fi, but we don't have any phone service right now because of me. So even my wonderful agent's for one of the agent's assistant, agent second agent, I don't know what the term would be called, but emailed me the other day and said, like, I thought you were a technological genius. I was like, yeah, on TV. So yeah, so I managed to destroy like maybe 2/3 of or was it 2/5, 3/5, something like that of a SIM card. So there you go. I'm literally like you think the dog's breakfast is made up. Well, most of it's based on my own silliness. So all right, what do we got? Are there any actors who are conservative, ideology, not party, firemen, defense rights, own and carry, support patriots? Because most seem to be progressive, commie, which sucks. Well, first off, this connection between communists and socialism, I go read a book on communism or go read a book on socialism, or just look them up. Look up the definitions, because I think there's a lot of conservatives, and originally I would consider myself a conservative. There are many, many right wing, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that are more on the right of politics in the film and television industry. There are many, many of them, and they are welcome to have those views. My concern was never with the idea of a Republican Party. In fact, I would have considered myself a conservative for most of my life. My concern has always been with the man who was running that party, and I was as a conservative myself was absolutely shocked that the politicians around him supported him and his activities. So that is I am not a communist. I'm not I would say definitely more socialist now after watching this pandemic, and only because I think people need to be looked after. I think I think there are people who are not as well off as those of us who have the time and the money to be out on YouTube chats and stuff. We need to look after people who can't. If you can't feed yourself, we need to look after those people. If you are sick, you need to be looked after. It is just common freaking decency, whether you're a Republican or a conservative. The Trump administration was sending out wanted to send $2,000 to every person in America. Well, the Democrats came in and said, well, you know what? Let's not give it to the people who don't need it and just give it to the people who do, and we could save ourselves a bit of money. Both of those are socialist things. Both of those are acts of socialism. Those are the government providing money to people. So, sorry, I don't mean to get... it's so frustrating to me that there's this... that because I don't support this particular Republican Party, that I don't even think is a Republican Party. I don't think it truly reflects the Republican mentality of small, of keeping the government out of things, keeping things efficient, keeping the market deciding stuff. It really freaking starts to tick me off when we get accused of being a freaking communist for that. So again, not mad at you specifically. This is something that happens all the time, where it's like, oh, I didn't vote for Trump, so now I'm a communist. And I think this is the problem that we're facing in the world right now. And I got to say, right now, Twitter is a much nicer place to be. It is positive. There are people going back and forth on stuff, but it is a much, much nicer place to be right now. And and I signed up for Parler, because I was like, yeah, I want to know what I want to see all sides of this stuff. I want to hear all sides of it. I have friends who voted for Trump. I don't agree with their logic or their reasoning behind it particularly, but at the same time, I don't then dismiss them as, racist, white supremacist, women-hating, homophobic idiots. Like, it's just not the case. There are 70 million people in America who voted for that man. And they had their reasons. I don't think they were all because they were all idiots or they're all, and I think this is the problem. I mean, and it was the problem on the right as well, with watching these freaking ads saying that if you're voting for Joe Biden, you're voting for socialists, and then like a communist symbol behind it. It's like, get your freaking messages straight. Anyways, all right, I'm going on. Hello from Moscow. Wow, there's a sudden, that's a perfect timing. Perfect timing, Moscow. Once again, Russia leaping into the fray. So there you go. And this is the other thing is, I know we live on a planet. We don't live on a planet of countries and different people. We live on a freaking planet. It's all one planet. I had really hoped when we had men on the moon looking back at our planet that it would suddenly, and we saw photos of this, it's a little blue planet surrounded by a lot more space. And if we think that we should be carving it up into little pieces and fighting over it, then I think we don't deserve to make it through a pandemic, frankly, because this is nuts. This is nuts. And I watch, same thing happens with the pandemic stuff. I watch selfish people who don't think the rules apply to them. And I include myself in that as well. I have made stupid decisions at times because, well, it's just this once and it's me and whatever. But as I get older, I begin to realize that it's if we all think we're the exception to the rules, then we're all a part of the problem. And I think we are part of the problem, frankly, and myself included. I take all absolutely. You know, the waste, the spending on the wrong things, spending on things that are not helping people. There's so many things that I need to change in my life. And I understand that. And I'm not going to call people out on that. But I do get frustrated when you voice an opinion now and you are immediately labeled either a fascist, white supremacist, or a communist. And I've been called both now because of things I've said online. So I just, at this point, I feel like we have to return to a time of where we can actually debate instead of argue. You know what I mean? Like, what happened to the art of debate? What happened to the idea of going back and forth and talking about things instead of just like calling each other names? I mean, and I think a lot of this comes down to the algorithm that's come into play with social media. I mean, we worry about AI taking over the world. It already has, because here's the deal: the algorithms that are coded to bring in the most views and get the most responses and get the most engagement, as the term would be, they don't care whether we're screaming at each other or threatening each other's lives or families or whatever. They don't care. They care that, wow, look at this. Whatever these humans just did, that caused a lot of other humans to join this chat and start yelling at each other, and flurries of emails and back and forth and messages and photos and memes and all sorts of stuff. So that's what it's coded for. So, you want to know how AI destroys the world? Well, this is it. This is exactly how it works. And I think we're beginning to wake up to that fact now, and I hope we are, because I feel like a big part of the problem, maybe even most of the problem, is that it doesn't just it. I used to think it was just, look, this is just, people are like this, and they're the same online as they are offline. I don't think that's the case anymore. I've seen kids go at each other online in a way that I know they wouldn't do if they were standing in a park together, because I then made them go and stand in a park together, and it was a very different conversation. So, I think we got to be careful about that stuff. And I'm by no means saying that I'm the shining example of this. I'm just you know me. I go McKay at the drop of a hat. But anyways. But again, it would be, amplify intelligence is a great way of putting it. A great way of putting it. But then there's a whole, people said, like, what movie are you living in right now? Idiocracy is a freaking great example, where my concern is that, what happens when only religious groups and people who don't know any better have lots of kids? Like, what if that's the only population that's actually procreating right now? I know so many smart, well-off, well-educated, well-employed, good people who have just decided not to have children. And that's absolutely, hey, look, we had one kid. I mean, when I grew up, I thought we were going to have like 1,000. We had one. That is a recipe for disaster to some extent, because it just means that we're going to have a planet of many different conflicting, imaginary beings that created everything, and the rest of people who don't care. So, I definitely worry about that, especially when you've got these giant, brilliant, artificial intelligent things. And again, this isn't like some kind of a sentient takeover. I'm just saying that the problem with AI, everyone always says, like, oh, we're worried about the AI taking over. I'm not worried about AI taking over. I'm worried about humans screwing it up. Because we could do we can do a much better job of destroying ourselves than any AI in my mind. So, but again, I'm also a complete optimist and think that we should, I believe that, I'm not a complete optimist, but I'm an optimist when it comes to technology, because I just believe technology is going to save everything. So, greetings from Hungary. How are you? Do you have snow in your living space too? We do have snow, not in my living space, but just outside. We do have some snow, and it's quite pretty actually. Oh, St. Petersburg. Oh my God. Wait. Okay. So there's a question. Oh my God. I can't use this new phone. I can't figure out the new phone. All right, let me see, just do this. Cancel that. There you go. Now I'm back. St. Petersburg. Wow. The thing about Russia is you literally just became my favorite actor. You're right about communism too. Balance of socialism and recognized rights, pure, crony monopolist. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem: is that I really feel that oh my God, I'm turning into Barnacles. What happened? Um, I generally avoid politics, but I don't think this is politics. I think this is just being. This is about being a human, and human decency. My motto used to be, "It's not enough to succeed; others must fail." I mean, I really that was it was joking, but it was a part of it. I mean, I always felt like the best revenge was success. But but I'm beginning to believe that it shouldn't be. Maybe it's having a kid. I don't know. We'll see what the deal is. This is wonderful. Needed more David Hewlett in my life. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy. Thank you very much, Mr. Medic. Mystery Medic? Mystery Medic. Howdy from Orlando of the Florida. Florida. Woohoo. How very McKay of me. Yeah, McKay, I don't know what McKay would say. I mean, McKay would probably take offense as well at the erroneous definition of the various different types of isms. I mean, look, if you're going to start accusing people of being communists here's the other thing I'm going to say is we admittedly it's sort of ingrained. It's being taught to us that we are the communism is evil, and I think obviously it has some huge problems, but so does capitalism, so does democracy, so does they all have issues that need to be dealt with. What do they say? Like, democracy is the best form of government. No, is the worst form of government, but it's better than all the others. Whatever I can't remember what the exact quote is. But the idea that we've got to stop shutting things out. The more we know, the more we understand about all of the different methods for, forget even governing, just looking after each other. I mean, James Gurney is a great example. I mean, James Gurney was saying that scientists have been predicting a pandemic like this, not just like, oh, one day there'll be a pandemic, but they're literally saying, like, look at these signs. These are issues of an impending pandemic. Toronto had SARS, for God's sake. We got shut down before. I was in LA, but we've been through this before, and yet we can't get vaccinations out to people. This is what governments are for. This is why we pay taxes. This is why they have control over our lives, our schools, our healthcare, and up here. That is what the money is supposed to be going to. And I don't see them delivering. So I think we need to start seeing how this is going to change. In the UK, we have what is known as chimocracy, putting mates in charge. Yeah, effectively, that's what Trump was doing too, right? I mean, he's basically just putting the people everything was sort of transactional for him. I think, I felt that every move he made was there was a payoff somewhere else, and I really hope he isn't able to do that, because I feel that would be that would be like the great swindle of some sort. So I couldn't agree more. Look, and again, I don't need everyone to agree with me. I'm absolutely happy for people to have reasons to support him. One of the great examples I heard, and I can't remember who this was. Was this Walter? Was this Country 3D who said this? But maybe, who was saying that it's like the plumber who shows up on Christmas Day to fix the plumbing. You may not like him. You may not like the way he acts or the way he smells or whatever, but he's still a savior because he showed up on your doorstep on a cold Christmas night and gave you heat. I just worry that I worry about, for me it wasn't worth it. I'd rather build a fire and make do until someone who wasn't that man with his beliefs. And my biggest issues with Trump, honestly, were less political than they were just as an example of a person. His absolute misogynist and misogynist bully-like approach to things just really, really bothered me. And frankly, his complete disregard for science or the truth really bothered me as well. So, all right, I see it with the current generation. They know everything, can't be proved wrong, and with overwhelming evidence. Yeah, it's interesting, Kavorm, because one of the things that I think that Obama, I never thought I would be voting Democrat. Never thought it would happen. And then Obama came along, and I wanted to vote for that guy. I wanted to vote for that guy so much that I became an American citizen so I could vote. I had voted conservative in Canada for years. I just assumed that the best government was one that stayed the hell out of things. It was like low taxes, small government. That doesn't exist anymore. Both all sides of the left, right, whatever, middle, they all are huge, lumbering, massively expensive governments. And so I don't believe you can have low taxes and massive governments. I think someone's paying somewhere. So I became an American citizen because I wanted to vote for Obama. I respected that man. I whether I didn't agree with all of his policies by any means. And you know what? He's the kind of guy who you could probably sit down and talk to about, and would prove me wrong very quickly, because he's much more intelligent than I am. But I just thought, as this new country that I was a part of, I had a green card for years. I was going to become an American citizen, and I thought, who do I want? Who do I want to present my new country to the world? And that was the man. And I think he's an example of the American dream. He's an example of a classy, intelligent, man who, despite race and politics and all sorts of stuff, became the president of the United States. And I feel like that was America to me. That is what America is, right? It shouldn't be old white guys. And I include Biden in on that. It should be, it should be the Kamala Harrises of the world, because at this point, look at the population. It shouldn't be old straight white guys running the world. There's a song about that. But anyways, I say that as an old white straight guy. I mean, that's, I'm as dull as it comes on this stuff. I'm a Republican and didn't vote for Trump because he doesn't represent the classic. Exactly. Who's that? Who said that? Because that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Claptrap. That's it. I would consider voting Republican, but I would not consider voting Republican for people who supported that as their leadership. Who votes that into being? I don't care. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you're supposed to fight against, that kind of populist nonsense. I mean, it's please tell me America is not a country that just votes for people because they recognize them from television. That's freaking awful. Anyways. And I worry that this whole populist thing is happening all the time. Anyways, what I do like to see is that there are, as people have said, there's some younger generations coming in there, but younger generations that Obama, in a speech, I think this is why I was heading down that road, said, we got to remember that bad people do good things and good people do bad things. There is no black and white. It is all gray. It is all back and forth between those things. And I think what the new generations are struggling to understand is that you don't just go like, you're a good person, did a bad thing. That is, we cancel everything you've done. Or that you're a bad person and you did a good thing. Yay! It's like you have to look and understand that. And it's a painful process, because I think you come out of childhood with this kind of idealism and this starry-eyed optimism about and faith in people. And you want good people to be all good, and you want bad people to be all bad, because then you can go bad person, put them over there, and a good person, put them up there. And it's just, you can't do that. We all do stupid, selfish, dumb things in our lives. And we also sometimes do some good. So I don't know. There you go. I'm sorry. I really, I don't know what set me off on that. Coffee and communism, I suppose, being called a communist or being associated with communism. Problem is, news tries to make your mind up for you. Yes. I mean, there's that whole sort of red and blue pill thing, isn't it? I mean, where I think people who are in the Trump camp think that we've taken the wrong pill, basically, that we're seeing the wrong internet. And I agree. That, that we have these bubbles, we have these spheres that we live in, where, Google is trying to please us. Again, algorithms. Google trying to please us. Oh, you want to know how bad this person is? Well, let me show you. Or you want to know how great this... Oh, yeah, here's all the good stuff. I mean, it knows you. Barnacules was amazing. Barnacules taught me this. Go to incognito mode, that my son taught me. That's terrifying. My son had to show me incognito. Why did he use it? You go into incognito mode in Google and do a search. And then go to regular old Google where you're signed in and then do a search. You will get different things. The incognito search is throwing everything they can at you. What's going to get you? What's going to get you? Where? How? What do you want? What do you want? Over here? Over here? Whereas the tailored search is going to funnel you down into what you want. I get electronics. I get Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and robots and now lots of mushrooms because I've mentioned mushrooms, I guess. Cell phones and tech and like I get fed all sorts of stuff. I got an ad for a scientific electron microscope. Jane said no. It's kind of expensive. I was like, what about tech bandits? I'm fed what I want. I love it because I'm getting ads for things that I want. I hated the old days when it was like, I don't need, adult diapers just yet. I don't have a cat. That cat food looks gross. I mean, so I enjoy the idea of personalization, but I think what we've got to be very careful of is realizing that our searches are being personalized for us and what we want to hear. And I think it alarms me when I see on Tech Bandits or whatever, like I say, Google Noodles, and Google Noodles will look something up. And the first thing that shows up is the truth or is the answer. And I think that, this is all about education. I mean, we have to, it's one of the reasons why I'm doing Tech Bandits is I want kids to question stuff. I as frustrating as it is to be questioned all the time, teenagers, that's the way it should be. They should constantly be making you question things. I mean, I remember my poor sister Moira, who would just constantly bashing heads with me about things I say or how I said things and stuff. Because because Moira, I'm not a racist. I'm not an idiot. I know this stuff. And the reality is, I'm a white, straight, single man. Single? Am I single? Oh my God, am I? Married man. But what is it? Straight, white, old guy? Something like that. Anyway, point being is that means basically that I'm racist, sexist, and homophobic, basically. Because I don't live in that world. I haven't had to deal with any of those issues. And we were discussing indigenous rights and indigenous land claim issues and this kind of stuff. And I was very dismissive of it. And, what are we going to do? Give them back their lands? And then what are they going to go back to hunting and stuff? And she's like, well, that's not our decision to make. There are treaties that have been made that we've broken. Anyways, so on her recommendation, when I finally apologized to her and said she was right, I read Indigenous Indian, which was The Indigenous Indian or Indigenous Indian. Yeah, it's a fascinating book because it's got a sense of humor to it, as even though it's talking about these horrific, treatment of Indigenous people. A lot of it up in Canada. We got examples of that recently too. I mean, we got this poor woman was dying in a hospital while she was being mocked and derided and judged and condemned by the healthcare workers in her hospital. I mean, she died, and they were mocking her and making race-based comments about her, and to such an extent that she felt she needed to film it on Facebook. I mean, it's extraordinary. I don't know how we can, as Canadians, step back and go America and your Black Lives Matter. What a disaster that place is. We're doing the same thing. So anyways, where am I going? The whole point was, I'm a sexist, racist, homophobic. I mean, there's a weird freedom that comes with that when you realize ableist as well. God, I mean, we were talking about Upgrade Required the other day, and this attitude of able-bodied people, is that the right term? Again, terminology, words matter, the way you say things. There's so many. God, anyways, I'm getting myself into I'm wrapping myself up in a nest of vipers at this point. But anyways, museum in Ottawa for Indigenous people is excellent. Oh, that's good. You forgot transphobic. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, there's a million. I know that I am excluding and am excluded from so much of the issues, so many of the issues that different groups have. It was amazing talking with a friend of one of Baz's friends' parents, and they were talking about how, even at 13, 14, their, big, goofy, silly kid that we just love, who's just a kid, that she has to sit him down and have a conversation about how to handle the police. Because while he's a big, goofy, big, goofy, I can't even, I just laugh when I think about him because he's just such a wonderful, fun kid. But he's a threat to police who don't know him. He's a masked, hooded, tall kid. And I literally didn't know that those conversations were necessary. No idea. No idea. In Toronto, I was like, we're the most multicultural city in the world, like, woohoo. No. In my neighborhood, there are people having to have conversations that say, keep your hands out of your pockets when you walk past the policeman. Do what I mean, good God. I didn't even know. I watched Rodney King get tasered, and I thought, what a horrible trio of racist policemen. Get them off the force and we'll just, done. You know what I mean? Like, I really thought that. I truly thought that was done 30 freaking years ago. And then I see what's happening now, and it's like, how privileged am I that I hadn't noticed that. I saw them all as little incidents. Oh, another one of those racist cops, terrible. Oh, another one of those, another one of these. Oh no, a racist in Target and this and that. And the reality is, and I think this is an interesting point actually as well, when it comes to racism, is that if you're racist, it doesn't mean you're waving freaking Nazi flags and or wearing white hoods and stuff. And I think that in a way that stops us from talking about this stuff, from getting into this stuff, because I think, if you're labeled as a racist, you immediately, your back goes up. You're like, what the, no, I know lots of black people and I'm a good person. And the reality is, that's not the point. The point is not that we are necessarily actively, operating on our racism, operating on racist urges. It's that we're not even aware of them. And that in itself is racism. I think we need to see that there's a spectrum to everything, including racism. It took me a very, very long time to get to a point where I could say I'm racist. There are things that are obviously that have been completely that I haven't seen, that I haven't seen in myself, in the way I spoke, in my interactions with people. And that hasn't made me more nervous or more uncomfortable. Yes, it has. Actually, it has. What am I saying? It's made me more nervous and more uncomfortable what I say and what I do. But the reality is, it's also made me focus on that stuff in a way that I think is very important. And I think if you're continually just going like, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, that you're not able to join in and help, if that makes sense. So I hope that's the case. And again, I'm working this stuff out myself. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I think part of the thing we have to overcome is like, how do we make mistakes and continue and not sort of just back off entirely. Anyways, look, I don't know. I've gone on so many different tangents today, but those are there's a lot of things bubbling around there. I guess that's, all initiated by one mistaken in my mind quote about how either you're an actor who supports Trump or you're a communist, basically. So I think I'm by no means saying that racism should be accepted. I'm just saying that we have to be aware of it before we can fix it. There is an innate problem with the concept of race to some extent, because, as I say, I like the idea of sort of looking back at the planet and just seeing a planet with humans on it, as opposed to a planet with little different countries and different religions and religions. Don't even start me on that one, but and different people. I think there are innate problems with dividing people up that way, but I also feel like we have to address this stuff. We got to get into it. We got to figure this stuff out. I don't think we ever will, honestly. I don't think it will ever be truly resolved, but I think we can at least get to a point where it can be discussed and we can go like, really, I didn't know. Like that's fascinating. Like let's discuss that, or how can we improve that, or like I think there's a tendency to think that because you're white or straight or male for that matter, that you haven't suffered, you don't know what it's like, and the reality is you don't, first off, absolutely, but it doesn't mean you haven't. It doesn't mean you haven't had to work. It doesn't mean you haven't had to suffer. It doesn't mean you haven't had hard times, that you don't have to work hard. I mean, it's not negating any of that stuff. I think that is a sort of a visceral response to being sort of called out on those mistakes. So, again, this is a topic that people say, what am I reading recently? Well, it was The Inconvenient Indian and a book called So You Want to Talk About Race, both of which really made me uncomfortable, also made me laugh, also introduced me to things I hadn't even considered before, and sort of opened up myself to discuss this kind of stuff, because this is not something I would bring up ever, generally, because polite people don't talk about race and stuff, race. I mean, God, we got I'm British as well. We got a whole class system as well. So we got lots to work on. I got lots to work on, let's say. And then there's the whole settler culture thing. Then you get into the whole space exploration we were talking about the other day, and our mentality is like, all right, great. Who's going to be first on Mars? And then we can start carving that planet up too. And there's, new USA, New England, new whatever. So there you go. Okay, I've gone on for way too long. Holy crap, I've talked for an hour. Wow, that's like an exercise unto itself. This is an amazing that's interesting. That's an interesting one. So Butt Naked Gamer saying you got sentences for marijuana and mushrooms, first felony, in jail with a black cellmate. How did you have it easier? I don't think I don't think that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you had it easier because of him in that specific situation, but I think that it's there are certain built-in advantages, maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, but there is sort of statistically, white men are being dealt with from a societal level in a different way than black men are. And I think that doesn't mean that that's always the case by any means, but I think you need to look. It's very, very difficult to look at it on a specific scale, because yes, I feel the same way. I'm like, wait a second, I've got black friends who've done just as well as I have, and they worked just as hard as I have, and I've worked hard, and blah blah blah. I mean, the reality is that the reality is I don't have a lot of black friends, to be honest. I grew up in a very, very white neighborhood. I'm obviously very white. I joke about my little sessions of zooming with my old friends. It's like I joke that it's like a scene from a Bond movie. It's just it's all the old white guys in little boxes plotting the overthrow of the film world. So I don't think it's about the specifics of those things, because I do think, as you say, Butt Naked Gamer was saying, how did you have it easier? I imagine you didn't. And again, your circumstances may be different, but I think what needs to be, I guess, what we're discussing at this point is that are there is there like an ingrained advantage or disadvantage to various different groups? I mean, there's a great someone explained it I can't remember who it was who did this. It's maybe even the same mom who was talking about having to talk to her son about the police, but was. Again, we're not saying that all police are racist. We're not saying that all organizations are well, actually, that's an interesting point, though, because the books that I would read would say that yes, they are. If that even black people in society can have built-in prejudices against black people. I mean, like literally, like this is not just about about white people. It's although it obviously we've been the settler culture. We have been in control for a long time. And I say we again I feel weird even sort of associating with that, if that makes sense. But the reality is it's something that I've sort of got to get my head around. I mean, I probably don't have to look back pretty far in my family tree to find some pretty hideous stuff. I'm sure because white British, that's Christian. I mean, I'm not Christian, but I was raised Christian. Because again, you're not born Christian, you're raised it. Anyway, so the point being, I guess, is that I'm trying to say is that I think that there are going to be specific things that you can point out and say, like, hey, this is, how can this be racist when I'm in the same situation or whatever? But I think the point here is that it's like there is an obvious problem with the way that black people are being treated in our society. So yelling about our own issues is not helping that. I mean, yes, absolutely. There's other issues as well, for sure. But it's a bit like your neighbor's house is on fire and the fire department shows up. You don't go like, hey, but why don't you can you spray my house too? Because what if it catches fire? The immediate concern is this house on fire. And I think we need to be able to sort of find our place in there. Like, how do we help? It's going to help all of us, right? We get that house fire under control. All of a sudden, our house is safer too, right? We have new friends. We have, we built community. We have. I mean, again, it's a silly analogy probably, but to me, it really spoke to the problem. I go like, oh, there is a house fire of a racist problem in society. So who am I to go like, yeah, but wait a second, nobody gave me an advantage on this stuff and this stuff and this stuff. I had to work and. That's not the point. The point is the house fire over here. Anyways, all right. Wow. It is, I got to say, Thomas Wade, one of the things I do love about this little community that we have is that it is, I mean, we do try to be civil on this stuff, and I welcome people to argue with me on this stuff. So it's not, although I never get a chance to actually get to the chat. It's obviously kind of a one-way conversation, but and I'm sorry, I'm on a little soapbox, I guess. So there you go, a few thoughts. Look, thank you so much. I should go. I think I'm gonna have to nuke this. I'm gonna have to nuke this now because it's cold. My coffee's gone cold with all my pontificating. So there you go. I shall say thank you very much. Sorry, just pointing out it's your. Oh, I'm going to get sucked back in again. Just pointing out that it's your personal choices that put you where you are in life. Yes, but I think there's also a fair amount of luck, isn't there? And I think luck can be swayed by advantage as well. The reality is, I know, this is a whole other topic. All right, look, I've talked for way too long. And I don't mean to cut this off, but because I could do this forever. But it's the morning is disappearing, and I've got things I must do. So thank you very much. Be safe, be kind, be brilliant, and until we meet again, I shall say cheerio and huzzah, and see you tomorrow.